The truth is, most people who are struggling with a low-grade mental health problem like low mood, anxiety, and burnout don't realize the factors that are actually driving it. And that's what I want to talk about today, because as a GP with a special interest in mental health, I need to share something I see again and again in my clinic. Many of the most common mental health problems I see daily aren't necessarily rooted in trauma or biology. They're rooted in everyday patterns that people don't realize are damaging to their mental health, resilience, and well-being. And so, if you can spot these patterns and start addressing them earlier, you can take some meaningful steps towards protecting your mental health before things slide. So, without further delay, here are the 4 reasons you're struggling with your mental health that no one talks about. Number 1, career personality mismatch. Let's start with work, because I see this one all the time. If you're a highly creative person, but spend your day buried in numerical spreadsheets, or, for example, if you're a naturally introverted person, but your job forces you to interact with people every single day, you're going to feel drained and burned out at the end of your working day. And that's not because you're lazy, as some people are prone to believe, but because your job pushes you out of alignment with who you are, your natural skills, talents, and fit. This isn't about avoiding hard work. I know a lot of incredibly hardworking people who still struggle with their mental health. The issue isn't how much you work, it's what kind of work you're doing. And if you're stuck in a job that's a complete mismatch for your personality or values, over time, that disconnect can have a cumulative effect, creating frustration, low motivation, and eventually burnout. Of course, you don't have to love every part of your job, but if your work consistently drains you rather than energizing you, it's something worth looking at. Number 2, fighting anxiety. This is a subtle but powerful trap. Anxiety is a normal human response. It's an emotion that's evolved to protect us and keep us safe from danger. So getting anxious from time to time isn't in itself a problem. But one of the key issues I see is when people get anxious about feeling anxious and they fight their anxiety. They try to suppress it, ignore it, and wish it away. And that resistance actually makes things worse over time. You end up in a loop where the very act of trying to push it away ramps up the anxiety even further. The key to understand with anxiety is that it isn't always an enemy. For some people, the harder they fight it, the worse it gets. It's better to lean into it, become open to it, understand it, and learn to work with it rather than against it. And doing that sometimes means working with a therapist. Sometimes it means taking medication, and usually it means developing personal tools to manage it, like breathing exercises, journaling, or meditation. But whatever it looks like, the first step is to stop the relentless fight against anxiety and instead start listening to what it's trying to tell you. The fight you're putting up might be the very reason you're struggling so much in the first place. Number 3, people pleasing. Are you a conscientious person who always says yes, who's always the first to help, who never wants to let anyone down? Now, it's easy to think of that as a strength, and don't get me wrong, in many ways it is, because after all, there is evidence that doing things for other people is protective for your mental health. But you have to appreciate that there's a line here. When your identity becomes so tied to being the dependable one, the one who's always available and always giving, you lose sight of your own needs. And that's when your mental health can start to suffer. Imagine it's 5 p.m. and you're about to finish your day at work and a colleague asks for help with something that could wait. Something your job doesn't depend on. You really want to leave. Maybe you want to exercise, maybe you want to spend time with your family or friends, or just have some time to yourself. But you say yes anyway. Over time, that constant self-sacrifice chips away at your reserves, and actually you end up losing time to do the protective things that keep your mental health stable. And the truth is, someone who can confidently say, I'd love to help, but I need to leave on time today, is actually far more likely to preserve their well-being than someone who never draws that boundary. And this isn't about being selfish. Caring for others does protect your mental health, but only when it comes from a place of balance. Learning to say no, even occasionally, is an essential part of looking after yourself. Number 4, self-medicating with alcohol. Now, this one is big and incredibly common. A lot of people reach for alcohol to unwind, to take the edge off and feel more relaxed. And in the short term, it kind of works. Having a drink can immediately improve your mood, lower your anxiety, and give you a temporary feeling of relief. But that relief is commonly followed by a crash, because scientific studies in both animals and humans show that after drinking, our mood often drops, our cognitive function can become impaired, and our anxiety increases. And if you're already struggling with your mental health, that crash could hit even harder. So what do? Well, you start a loop. You drink to feel better again, and then you feel worse. So you drink again. And what you started as a coping strategy becomes part of the problem. And so while many people drink alcohol and feel better immediately, what they don't realize is that those drinks are the reason they're feeling lousy, low, or anxious for the next few days. So if you're using alcohol regularly to manage stress or your mood, it's worth looking at how you feel, not that evening, but in the days afterwards, and asking yourself, is this actually helping me or holding me back? My recommendation, if you're struggling with stress levels or your mood, cut down, or even better, cut out your alcohol consumption. If you want more health tips and strategies from someone who does this every day, helping patients work through exactly these kinds of issues, then hit subscribe now and join me here on The Health Perspective.